What happens when a mother, the one meant to protect, becomes the very force her children must survive? On June 15, 2024, Brianna Jenkins walked out of her Atlanta apartment chasing freedom, leaving behind 3 young children to face the silence, the hunger, and the slow unraveling of their innocence. Brianna lived for the surge, the quick hit of a new acrylic set, the fresh scent of a human hair weave, the flash of a branded handbag that cost more than a month's groceries. Her apartment, tucked away in a less glamorous pocket of Atlanta, always felt like a cage. Bills piled, the fridge remained bare, and her children's faded clothes seemed to mock the designer dreams she chased. Terrell, Imani, and Kai were anchors, pulling her down from the freedom she yearned for. She'd tried this before, the escape. Years ago, a first child, a quick adoption, a clean break. It was a practice run for a life unburdened. Her children were an obligation, a constant demand she resented. Dinners were often microwaved meals or bags of chips. Cries were met with a blank stare, sickness with a dismissive wave. The daycare was a sanctuary, a place where she could drop them off early, stay out late, and pretend the quiet apartment was hers alone. She existed on a tightrope of child support checks, each one immediately funneled into her fleeting desires. Then came Dexter Vance. Not like the men before. He arrived in a polished sedan, his midtown apartment overlooking the city, his confidence a gravitational pull. He saw Brianna not as a struggling mother, but as the dazzling woman she pretended to be. He offered liberation, one rule delivered with a charming smile, yet firm as granite. I love you, baby, but kids, they're just not my scene. Brianna heard freedom. She began to fabricate stories about her children staying with their fathers, weaving a narrative that kept her 2 worlds fiercely separate. Dexter's requests grew more insistent. Why don't you stay over more? You should just move in. Each question fueled her desperate hunger for his world, a world where children didn't exist. They'll be fine, she told herself, the words a thin shield against a truth she couldn't face. I need this for me. This was the life she deserved, the path to everything she believed she was owed. The whispers of a life she craved drowned out the cries of the life she had. And on that sweltering June night in Atlanta, the decision was made. A decision that would define her forever and almost erase them. The sharp clinking of ice in a glass, the low thrum of music from Dexter's balcony high above the Atlanta skyline. Brianna laughed, a light, carefree sound. Miles away, in the dim, stale air of her apartment, silence had become an intruder. Terrell held his siblings close, his small voice a forced whisper. Mommy just went to the store, she'll be back soon. Imani sniffled, hugging her tattered bear tighter. She forgot to say bye. Terrell believed it, or he tried to. As the sun dipped, painting the city in bruised purples and oranges, a different color filled their apartment. Cold, empty, gray. Hunger began to bite. The kitchen, a barren landscape of empty cabinets, yielded only a few sips of water and a sliver of stale bread. Kai fussed, a weak, infrequent cry. As the first night stretched into the second day, a 6-year-old's fragile hope began to crack. The gnawing emptiness in their stomachs was only matched by the chilling realization that soon wasn't coming. Kai's cries grew softer, more desperate. Imani, a shadow in the corner, barely moved, her eyes wide and vacant, fixed on nothing. Terrell, his own body protesting, forced himself to search again, knowing it was useless. The apartment filled with a heavy, sweet-sour smell, spoiled milk, soiled diapers. The heat pressed in, thick and suffocating. Flies, drawn by the decay, buzzed around Kai's crib. He lay still, his tiny chest barely rising. By the twilight of the second day, a new, more terrifying silence descended upon the apartment. It wasn't the silence of sleep, but the quiet surrender of bodies pushed to their absolute limit. And no one, absolutely no one, was coming. Kai was almost motionless. His breath came in shallow, ragged gasps. His lips, dry and cracked, refused the water Terrell offered. Imani lay flat on the floor, her bear pressed to her chest, her gaze fixed on the ceiling. Terrell sat beside Kai, his small hands shaking uncontrollably. "It's okay, Kai," he whispered, a lie that tasted bitter. Deep down, he knew the truth. Kai was dying. Imani whimpered, curling closer to him. "I don't want to be here anymore," she murmured. Terrell had no answer, because neither did he. In the suffocating darkness of day 3, a 6-year-old boy faced a truth no child should ever know. The protector was powerless, and the clock was not just ticking, it was winding down to zero. Brianna moved through Buckhead's upscale boutiques, her phone tucked away, its screen dark. Each new purchase, each lavish dinner with Dexter, felt like a deliberate erasure of her past. She laughed freely, unburdened by the phantom cries she'd once heard. Her focus was solely on the moment, on Dexter's hand in hers, on the life she was finally living. Back at the apartment complex, Ms. Loretta, an older woman from across the hall, frowned. The blinds were always down. An unusual quiet hung around Brianna's door. Days passed without seeing the children. Ms. Loretta tried calling Brianna's cell a dozen times, but it went straight to voicemail. A growing concern, a quiet hum of worry, settled in her chest. She walked to the apartment door, knocked, then knocked again, harder this time. Inside, Terrell froze. A sound, not the familiar creak of their mother's return, but something different. Hope flickered, then died. He remembered Brianna's sharp command. "Don't open the door for anyone. They'll take you away." His small body, weak from hunger, pressed against the doorframe, silent. Ms. Loretta waited, her brow furrowed, then sighed, assuming Brianna and the children were simply visiting family. The chance for help, for intervention, faded with her footsteps. Hours later, Brianna returned to the complex, briefly, to collect a package from the mailroom. As she reached her door, a bright red note from the children's school marked "Urgent, Welfare Check" had been slipped beneath it. Her eyes scanned the bold lettering, a cold wave of recognition. She paused, the paper crinkling in her hand. A child's desperate cry, thin and far away, seemed to brush against her ears. She crumpled the note, a decisive crush, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. "Can't be bothered right now," she muttered, her voice flat, her face emotionless. Hope, a fragile, fleeting thing, had just knocked on their door. But the hand that could have saved them was already turning away. And a mother, with a single dismissive crumple of paper, ensured the nightmare would continue. The stench in the apartment was now absolute, a thick, suffocating blanket. Flies were a constant hum. A horrifying stillness settled over Imani and Kai, broken only by Terrell's ragged breaths. His stomach heaved, dry and painful. He crawled towards Kai, trying to shake him, to get a response. Nothing, just the faint, barely perceptible rise and fall of the baby's chest. Imani lay unresponsive, her eyes open but seeing nothing, her small hand still clutching her bear. Outside, Ms. Loretta couldn't shake the dread. The ignored note, the constant quiet, the growing odor. It was too much. She called the building manager, her voice trembling as she described the heavy smell. The manager, in turn, contacted authorities, conveying the urgency of the neighbors' distress. The blare of sirens ripped through the quiet Atlanta street. Heavy knocking rattled the apartment door, followed by a thunderous crash as it splintered inward. The first officer, Detective Hayes, stepped into the oppressive darkness. The smell hit him first, sharp and sickening. Then his flashlight beam cut through the gloom, illuminating 3 small figures huddled together. His breath caught. Oh my God. Paramedics burst in, their voices sharp, their movements swift and precise. Blankets, IVs, oxygen masks. Terrell felt strong hands lift him, a warmth he hadn't known in days. His eyes fluttered, seeing blurred faces, feeling a touch that wasn't his own desperate comfort. He didn't know where they were taking him, or if his siblings were even alive. He just knew, for the first time in an eternity, he wasn't alone. As the sirens wailed through the streets of Atlanta, rescue had finally arrived. But for the small, fragile bodies now being rushed away, the scars of neglect had already been etched deep. And miles away, oblivious, a mother's perfect escape was about to shatter. The music throbbed at a chic Atlanta rooftop bar. Brianna, a mimosa in hand, laughed, her eyes fixed on Dexter's charming smile. She felt weightless, free. A shadow fell over their table. Two uniformed officers stood there, their expressions grim. Brianna's smile faltered, her confusion twisting into a cold recognition. "Brianna Jenkins," a voice stated. The click of handcuffs echoed, sharp and final. She offered no fight, no tears, just a detached whisper. "I was going to go back." At the hospital, the children slowly healed. Kai remained fragile, dependent on oxygen, a miracle of survival. Imani spoke in hushed tones, her words hesitant, her eyes still holding a distant fear. When a nurse gently asked Terrell about his mother, his reply was a simple statement of devastating fact. "She said she'd be back. She never came." The courtroom was a study in grim attention. The prosecutor laid out the case, each piece of evidence a hammer blow. Medical reports detailed starvation, severe dehydration. Expert testimony confirmed Kai's near death, moments from the brink. The timeline of abandonment, juxtaposed with Brianna's days of luxury, painted a picture of cold, calculated indifference. Brianna sat, her face expressionless, showing no hint of remorse, further solidifying the jury's judgment. Her attorney's efforts were futile, overwhelmed, no support, didn't mean to harm them. The words hung in the air, dismissed by the stark reality of the children's suffering. The jury, after a brief deliberation, delivered their verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge's voice, firm and resolute, filled the silent room. "You abandoned 3 children who depended on you. You left them to suffer for days while you indulged in luxury. You made your choice, Miss Jenkins. Now you face the consequences." The sentence: 25 years in prison. A life irrevocably lost, defined by a monstrous act. The gavel fell, sealing Brianna Jenkins' fate. But as the prison gates closed behind her, a chilling question lingered. Was justice truly served when the man who enabled her monstrous act walked away free? Across town, Dexter Vance moved effortlessly through another exclusive Atlanta lounge, a fresh drink in hand, a new woman by his side. His charm was undimmed, his laughter carefree. He told her the familiar line, delivered with a disarming smile, "I love you, baby, but kids, they're just not my scene." While Brianna rotted, Dexter flourished. He was the ultimate beneficiary of her tragic choice, untouched by the consequences of his influence. Terrell, Imani, and Kai began their new lives in foster care. Their physical bodies slowly recovered from the brutal neglect, but the deeper wounds remained. Imani still clutched her bear, a silent sentinel of her trauma. Terrell, ever watchful, spoke little, his eyes holding the quiet protectiveness of a child who had seen too much. Their future a fragile question mark. Would they stay together? Could they ever truly heal from the profound betrayal of the one person who should have protected them? Was 25 years enough for Brianna Jenkins? Can a mother who commits such an act ever truly change? And what of Dexter Vance? Was his hands-off approach truly innocent, or was he an accomplice to a slow, agonizing crime? This isn't just a story of abandonment, it's a mirror reflecting the devastating consequences of extreme self-interest, the silent suffering of the vulnerable, and the unsettling gaps in our understanding of justice. The Jenkins children survived, but their story serves as a haunting reminder. Sometimes, the most shocking true crime isn't about violence, but about the profound, chilling absence of love. It's about a choice, and the lives it shattered forever. If this story ignited a spark of outrage or a moment of reflection, then subscribe to Eyewitness True Crime Stories. Because sometimes, the most shocking narratives aren't just real, they are a powerful warning.